one for 125 yards is not going to cut it against Kansas City. When they have to trade points with the team, the defense is not – nobody's been able to shut Kansas City down. So as good as the Baltimore defense is –
and this game's in Kansas City.
Yeah, they're going to have to score
they're
points.
They're probably going to lose this football game. But I still like the direction
That's
of the team.
why I think, though, Flacco, maybe it's some sort of a, or if they get behind by a couple of scores, do you go to Flacco at that point? I like Lamar Jackson a lot. I thought he was so dynamic and exciting at the collegiate level. And I think, with the injury to Flacco, maybe it sped up the process a little bit. But I like Marcus. I'm still anxious to see if they fall behind, what do they do at that point from an offensive standpoint?
Unbelievable. The Houston Texans at one time had lost 9 in a row.
They've won 9 in a row now.
They've completely turned it around. 9 straight wins, and now they're playing like a team that's a serious contender. Easy win against Cleveland.
They can, Baker Mayfield at one time in the game had more completions to blue shirts than he did white shirts. Not all his fault, but they really struggled early in that game. This was the first time Mayfield had had 2 touchdowns in 5 straight games against weaker opponents. This was the first tough test he really had. I still like his moxie, and I still think of the group, right now, for my money, Cleveland made the right choice. I think right now, long term, he's going to be the best of that bunch. But you look at the Texans, though, had that longest losing streak at 9 games, dating back to the 6 they had lost last year, and then to start the season 0-3. But both sides of the ball are playing so well. And what happened to Lamar Miller? I mean, the first 5 or 6 games of the season, he was averaging 54 yards per game, like 3.7 yards per carry. He has completely changed that around. He's averaging, 100 yards over the last 4 weeks. He's had some long runs. They're able to run the ball now, which helps Deshaun Watson a lot. They've got Demaryius Thomas in the mix a little bit with DeAndre Hopkins. That defense is playing solid football right now, and they're only a game out of being a number 2 seed in the AFC, guys.
And that was an absolute flat spot for Houston yesterday, coming off the Monday night game, the emotional game with the owner passing away, and they delivered it. Baker Mayfield still threw for almost 400 yards. A lot of garbage. A lot of it was in garbage. But early in the game, when the game got put out of reach, the turnovers they had, they were driving. They were costly turnovers, cost them points. It's sour grapes for me because I was on the over in that game.
I thought it was a little bit of a flat spot for Cleveland too, because they came off that first road win the week before, and it was against their ex-coach Hugh Jackson, and kind of what happened after the game. I thought it was a little flat spot for them too as well.
Turned out to be a pretty good football game. Didn't mean much as far as the big picture is concerned, but the Bills and Dolphins went at it yesterday, and the Dolphins pulled out a close win. Josh Allen made a great play late in the game, and the Bills almost pulled it out. I mean, Josh Allen's going to be a player.
It's funny that you say that, because when we were working on this week's numbers at Red Rock today, it was myself and Bert Rencione from Green Valley and Jason McCormick and the supervisors there. We got into like a heated debate because, for my money, Charles Clay's supposed to catch that ball.
Yes.
Hits him in the hands.
Yes.
Some of the room was like, "Oh, it was way too low. You can't."
This isn't high school football. NFL, you got to make that catch.
I hit him in the hands. I thought Josh Allen did a really good job of. If the other guys are listening right now, I'm sure some are going, "Yay," and some are going, I can't believe you're throwing us under the bus. But I thought he should have caught that ball. I really thought that he should have caught that ball. Josh Allen did a good job. You look at the way he's played at starter right. I think they're 3-5 in games that he started. Easily could be 4-4. Miami might be the ugliest 6-6 team in the league right now. But they're still 6-6. They're still in the hunt for one of those 2 wild card spots. But I think it's encouraging to watch Josh Allen. I think he's a little bit better than what they thought he would be right now. Still more of a runner and a scrambler than a thrower, but I think that'll come in time. They have to find him some wide receivers, though, guys.
I'm going to apologize right now for anybody that bet Buffalo yesterday. I had Miami minus 3.5, and I was embarrassed to go to the window and take them out. Buffalo dominated that game all the way. Yeah, not only that last catch, and give Josh Allen for extending the play as long as he did, and to get it even into the end zone, he threw it across the field. He was on the other side of the field. That was unbelievable, but they missed an extra point.
I coach football. I'm going to yell at my kids if they drop that ball.
They missed an extra point in that game. They missed a field goal in that game. They had every opportunity in the world to cover it. It was a total lucky win for Miami. Buffalo deserved it. And Josh Allen, Miami had no answer for him running the football. No. At what point do you not put a spy on him to stay there. He was killing them the entire game with his feet.
You know, it's funny, but we talked about this a little bit last week, is that when you look at this kind of young barrage of young quarterbacks, if it's Mitchell Trubisky, and you saw what a difference a scrambling quarterback can make because Chase Daniel couldn't get out of his own way yesterday. So you look at Josh Allen, you look at Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. I know the prototypical quarterback. You look at a Tom Brady, who, has just cracked 1,000 yards in his entire career rushing. But you look at some of these young guys, and they're able to create with their legs. And I think it's such a difference in today's NFL than it was in the past, that if you've got the arm strength like a Mahomes or a Trubisky or a Watson or an Allen, and you can scramble, what an added dimension.
Especially with the spread offenses now around the NFL, you want somebody who can move around. And the Bears have that in Trubisky. They don't have it in Chase Daniel, who he had some rough spots yesterday. He looked like a backup quarterback, threw the pick six right out of the gate.
First play.
Yep, very first play. The Bears came back from that, got the 14-7 lead, but really didn't play well in the second half. Got a miracle, an onside kick recovery late in the game, which they converted into a touchdown with some spectacular plays, including a beautiful trick play. If you have Tariq Cohen on your fantasy team, you picked up a lot of points yesterday. But the Bears did lose the game. It really didn't cost them much, though, because Minnesota,
Right.
Green Bay, Detroit all lost, so they actually got one game closer to the division title.
I still think it was a bad loss. I think that Nagy tried to steal one again yesterday, and it didn't work out. A win there, because you look at their remaining schedule. They still play Minnesota, the Rams, and Green Bay.
Yeah.
So it's not a cakewalk. So I think it was kind of a bad loss. Chase Daniel did not play well. He had 3 fumbles on the final drive that they recovered all 3.
Yeah.
When you talk about Cohen, I believe he is the shortest person to ever throw a touchdown pass in the NFL.
I don't know about that.
He's
because,
pretty cool.
Eddie LeBaron was a very small quarterback
I'm not sure
back
who
in
he
the 50s
is, sorry.
or the 60s. He was like 5'7".
But he's an
Played
exciting
quarterback for
player.
the Redskins. And,
For me though, yesterday I thought the Bears D did not play great.
they did not have a good.
The second half
they
of
looked
that
like
game,
they were flat yesterday.
Right, and that play right before the half when Barkley had the long run that enabled them to get that field goal. I didn't think they played a great game. They had some spurts where they got to Eli Manning, but I did not think they played a great game. And you look at Saquon Barkley, he is definitely the real deal. I mean, he makes yards out of nothing. He is a very talented young back, and hopefully they're able to find that surrounding cast around him and develop a young quarterback at some point, because with him and Beckham, you've kind of got that mix. You've got that dynamic wideout. You've got a running back who's probably a top 5 running back in the league. I think you just need that quarterback. But for me, even though the rest of the North lost, I thought it was a really bad loss for the Bears.
Stat for New York Giant fans, Odell Beckham Jr., 2 touchdown passes this year of over 40 yards. Eli Manning, 0. Think about that for a while.
That's a great stat. That's going to be on a sports
stat.
trivia question. I love that, Marco.
That really is. That's amazing.
Well, maybe they should just start OBJ at quarterback.
You know what? He threw a nice block yesterday in a Barkley run, too. He did some good things yesterday. I know he always has one play that they'll hop on, but Beckham, I'll take him on my team. Denver Broncos are hot. Look, I don't care who it was against yesterday. They still had to go on the road off 2 really thrilling home wins. They're playing a lesser team. This is a spot where a team can let down. They took care of business at Cincinnati yesterday. That's a good win. And the Broncos are in this thing now.
Their coach has been on the hot seat since the season started. They're 6-6 right now. I believe they have one of the easier schedules left in the league. You look at all the hype that Royce Freeman got in the offseason, and Philip Lindsay, as an undrafted free agent, is 168 yards away from having the greatest rookie undrafted free agent season ever. Dominic Rhodes has the record right now. He's got 4 games to pick up 168 yards.
If he
this
stays
kid's
healthy,
the real deal.
He's a lock for that. And it's one of those things where sometimes if you watch Lindsey play in college, it's like he just looks like a football player. He doesn't have the numbers that make the scouts jump up and say, oh, we got to have this guy. He's just a player.
He had some injuries. As an undrafted free agent, he got 2 calls. One was from the Baltimore Ravens. One was from the Denver Broncos. He elected to stay home. I think it's a wise choice. I think he's been phenomenal. Again, Royce Freeman was the guy everybody was talking about, and I like Royce Freeman. I think if Lindsey wasn't there, you might be talking about Royce Freeman as one of those candidates for Rookie of the Year or a top young back because he'd be getting all the work. But you look at the future now with those two guys at running backs. You've got Sutton at wide receiver. They need to pick up some more wideouts. Sanders is good. But I think the Broncos very quietly are one of the bigger surprises right now. And again, guys, for my money, you look at their schedule. They might be able to sneak into a wild card game. They beat the Steelers 2 weeks ago, and they've played Kansas City twice, or played them really tough 2 times this year. So at 6-6, I think it's a Denver team that might be able to get to 9-7, maybe 10-6 based on their schedule.
And right now, Cincinnati's unplayable.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I really think you got a dead man walking at coach. I just don't think Lewis can.
How's
no
Mike
way.
McCarthy out of a job and Marvin Lewis isn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Marvin Lewis doesn't have Aaron Rodgers dictating what takes place in the team, and I'm not knocking Rodgers. That is his team. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's face it, Cincinnati. Speaking of the Bengals, what do you do at this point? Do you just say, okay, we've had enough with Andy Dalton. Let's see what we can do with Driscoll the rest of the way and determine whether he's our quarterback in the future. Do you go that route?
Well, you have to. I mean, Andy Dalton's hurt right now with the hand issue.
Yeah, but I mean, do you even think about bringing Dalton back?
No, I don't think you see Dalton the rest of the year. You have to. You have nothing to lose. And as you said, you got to figure out what you have. If not, you got to look at going into the draft this year and look for a quarterback.
They have to make a decision on Dalton. I believe by March to pick up his contract or not.
I don't see it.
Now, I don't either, but, I mean, you think about – I don't think Dalton's that bad of a quarterback.
He's serviceable.
I think he's serviceable. I think he's a little bit more than serviceable if he's on the right team. You put him on Jacksonville with that defense and Leonard Fournette. I think it's a considerable upgrade over Blake Bortles. But, every year he's got to deal with, it's either an A.J. Green injury, it's a Tyler Eifert injury, it's an injury to one of his running backs, that line. That team just seems, for whatever reason, early this year, I thought they were the best team in the AFC North through the first month of the season.
When they're healthy. When they have all of those offensive weapons.
So I think he's a little bit more serviceable, and I think he becomes an attractive free agent. I mean, even for the Giants, for a year or two, you put him with Beckham and Barkley and a better team around him, I think he's a much more serviceable backup or a much more serviceable starter short term on the right team.
A game that was – go ahead.
Jacksonville. Why not Jacksonville?
That's what I said, Jacksonville or the Giants. Yeah, I think
depends if Coughlin likes him or not.
He is much better than anything they got down there.
Listen, there's kids in 200%sports.com.
The Red Rifle.
Yeah. The Rams didn't play a great game yesterday, but they did enough to win. A little bit of a misleading final. There were a lot of good games for the books yesterday. I assume this was not one of them.
It was not.
Right. But, you're not going to get them all. And that's the thing about the Rams. They're good enough so that they can win games when they don't play well, and they have moved back into the number 1 seed in the NFC.
They have. They're co-favorites to win the NFC now with the Saints. For me, though, I mean, it was not talked about as much. I know we talked about it a few weeks ago, but I think you can clearly tell that Jared Goff misses Cooper Kupp. I mean, Kupp was underneath guy. He was his safety valve. He was the guy that led the team in receiving yards last year, was leading him in receiving yards this year. He, to me, has the same effect. No one's really talking about this for Aaron Rodgers, but, God, without Jordy Nelson, he's a different quarterback.
Well, I know they're not different positions, but Kupp is kind of the Rams' version of Gronkowski. He's a really important cog in that offense.
He's Gronkowski. He's Jordy. Jordy was always that underneath safety valve part. And they did enough. I mean, they come back off their bye. They win the game. They've got the big Sunday night game coming up. Not sure with 2:38 to go what Todd Gurley was thinking when he didn't score on that 30-yard run.
He just screwed up, and then he scored 2 plays later.
Did, so. But if you're a fantasy guy, you're like, a 35-yard run's worth a heck of a lot more than a 1-yard run.
He made a mistake.
Depending on what league you're in. So I heard a lot of groans out there, and then it hit me. He must have been on somebody's fantasy team. But they're a really talented team. They're a low favorite against the Bears on Sunday night. And that's why I think it was a bad loss for the Bears, because the Bears could lose back-to-back games.
They could.
Minnesota, however, plays at Seattle, so they have a tough task as well. But it's still the Ram team right now that I think should be the favorite in the NFC, just because the NFC Championship game right now would not be on that turf in the Superdome.
That offense is still so explosive. It's a 16-13 game in Detroit's live with the points, which I was on, but they just, boom, a couple quick plays, and they get the cover, and that's what good teams do.
Rest of the NFL recap. Monday afternoon quarterback session continues. Next up, it'll be the Packers game. We'll talk about what happened on the field and what happened off the field after the game right after this.
The Las Vegas Sportsline.
All my friends need a little money.
This is William. I've been a customer of Dollar Loan Center for over 2 years at their River Park location. Happy holidays. The first time I ever used Dollar Loan Center, I needed about $1,500 to cover a major engine repair on my Toyota